Hello children, welcome back to science class. So I think you are getting ready for the exam. So we can make a quick revision on our science topics. So for the exam, you have two lessons. The first lesson is about skeletal system and second lesson is about muscular system. So today we are going to make a revision on the two topics. So the first lesson is about skeletal system. So we are discussing the important points and also I will discuss the important questions from that particular topic. So you have to do one thing, when you are watching the video, take your textbook along with you and note down the important points. So the components of skeletal system. First we are studied about skeletal system. Skeletal system means a rigid framework of bones that provides a definite shape to the body. It is a rigid framework of bones, it will give a definite shape to our body. So you can expect one question, what you mean by a skeletal system. So at that time you have to write this sentence. A rigid framework of bones that provides a definite shape to the body and supports, it is called a skeleton. What is skeleton? So that system is known as skeletal system. Then what are the functions of the skeletal system? Next question is, what are the functions of the skeletal system? So there are different functions. So the first function already given here, it supports and gives shape to the body. Then second, it protects our internal organs and helps in bodily movements. So 4 points are there for the function of skeletal system. It gives shape to the body and support to the body. Then it protects the internal organs and it helps in bodily movements. Then our skeletal system is divided into skull, backbone, ribcage and limb bones. So mainly 4: skull, backbone, ribcage and limb bones. So the one question you can expect from there, how many parts of skeletal system or which are the main parts of our skeletal system? Skull, backbone, ribcage and limb bones. Then you are studying 2 more points here. The eye socket, bony eye socket, it will protect the eyeball, and then hip girdle is there that protects the urinary bladder. Then we studied about the components of skeletal system we studied. Then we are going to study more about the skull. So skull is the rigid and bony framework of our head. Then how many bones? 22 bones in the skull. Study that number. Then skull protects our brain, eyes, tongue and internal ears. That is the function of skull. The skull protects our brain, eyes, tongue and internal ears. Then the different types of bones in our skull. Cranial bones and facial bones. Cranial bones that enclose the brain. It encloses the brain, and how many are there? 8 cranial bones. They are flat and interlocked. So study that. What are cranial bones? Or you can expect another question. Write a note on cranial bones. So at that time you have to write this. Bones that encloses the brain are called cranial bones. There are 8 cranial bones. They are flat and interlocked. Then next is about facial bones. So bones that form the upper jaw, lower jaw and the other parts of the face are called facial bones. So that much about skull. And among the facial bones and cranial bones, only one bone is fixed, that is once in the lower jaw. Among the facial bones and cranial bones, only one bone can move. That bone is known as the lower jaw bone. All the other bones are fixed there. The lower jaw can move and the movement helps us to chew food and other facial expressions. Then next topic is about vertebral column. Our skull is attached to our vertebral column, which is also called the spine. Another name of vertebral column is spine. And it forms the main axis of our skeleton. It is made up of 33 small irregular shaped bones and the name is vertebrae. Study the number and the name vertebrae which are linked together. Then functions. It protects the important blood vessels in the delicate spinal cord, which is a bundle of nerves. It allows us to bend, twist and stand upright. So in the vertebral column you have to study another important question is that what are the functions of the vertebral column. So these are the functions, study this one. And next is about ribcage. So we completed skull, then vertebral column or backbone, then ribcage. So here the ribcage, like a cage structure, it protects the lungs and heart, and we can see a number of bones are there. They are curved bones, flexible bones. They are known as ribs. So pairs of ribs, curved and flexible ribs. All the bones are attached to the spine or backbone, and Except 2, all the other bones are attached to the breastbone also. The 2 bones are not attached and they are known as floating ribs. They are attached only to the spine. Among the ribs, only 2 bones are attached to the spine only. All the remaining bones are attached to the breastbone also. So the 2 bones that are attached to the spine only, they are known as floating ribs. Then, so that is about rib cage. Then we studied limbs. So limbs means the arms and legs together known as limbs. 2 arms and 2 legs together known as limbs. Then if you are considering the upper limbs, the bone is there, that is known as humerus. And lower limbs contain 2 bones, they are known as ulna and radius. Then small bones are there, wrist, palm and fingers, we can see small kind of bones. Then if you are considering the leg portion, the upper leg has a long bone, it is known as femur. It is the longest bone in our body, femur. It bears weight of our entire body. Then lower leg contains 2 bones, tibia and fibula. Tibia and fibula, and there also we can see small kind of bones. They will mix in ankles and toes. In ankles and toes we can see small bones. So when we are considering the limb portion, limbs means what? It consists of arms and legs. Arms and legs together known as limbs. Then 2 portions are there, upper limb and lower limb. In the upper limb, 1 bone is there, it is known as humerus. Lower limb, 2 bones are there, ulna and radius. And small bones we can see in wrist, palm and fingers. Then the leg portion. In the leg portion also, upper leg is there, lower leg is there. In the upper leg, 1 long bone is there, it is known as femur or thigh bone, and it bears the weight of our entire body. And lower leg, 2 types of bones, tibia and fibula. And here also we can see small kind of bones. They are present in we can see in the ankles and toes. So that is about limbs. Then the last topic is about the structure of bone. So inside the bones consist of small number of holes, small kind of holes to enter the nerves and blood vessels. So if you are checking the inner portion of a bone, we can see a jelly-like substance, and that is known as bone marrow. And the blood cells are produced here. So you can accept different questions from ribcage. So write a note about ribcage and what are the functions of ribcage, what are ribs, what are floating ribs. So these are the important questions you can expect from the ribcage portion. And how many number of bones are present in ribcage. The next is about the ribcage. One more question is there. It will allow our chest to expand and contract when we breathe in and out. That is also a function. Then we studied limbs. About limbs, the different names of bones in the upper limbs, lower limbs, upper leg, lower leg. So these names are very important. Then about structure of bone. So it will ask us a direct question, explain the structure of a bone. Then what is bone marrow? The spongy jelly-like substance inside the bone is known as bone marrow. And what are produced in the bone marrow? Blood cells. Or you can expect another question, the blood cells are produced where? In the bone marrow. So that is about the first chapter. I hope you understood the important points and questions from the first chapter. Let us go to the next chapter, muscular system. And before that, one more point is there, joints. Joint is also there. A joint is a place where 2 or more bones come together, connected together. A joint is a place where 2 or more bones are connected. So that is a question you can expect, what you meant by a joint. Then next topic, a ligament is a tough fibrous tissue that connects one bone to another to strengthen a joint. So you can expect 2 different questions from this. One is that what is a ligament? Next is what give or what strengthen a joint? A ligament gives strength or it will strengthen a joint. What is a ligament? A ligament is a tough fibrous tissue that connects one bone to another. Then there is one fluid is there, it will reduces the friction. What is the fluid name? It is known as lubricant. Then 2 types of joints are there, movable and immovable. So you can expect another question, which are how many kinds of joints are there? 2 types. Which are they? Movable and immovable. So in this chapter we studied about movable joints. Then which are the movable joints? Four types: hinge joint, ball and socket joint, pivot joint and gliding joint. Each joint is very important. You can expect write a note on hinge joint or write a note on ball and socket joint, or you can expect write a notes on pivot joint and gliding joint. Then some more questions are there where we can see hinge joints in our body. So hinge joint, the specialty is that it can move only in one direction, and the places where we can see the joints are finger joints, elbow joint, knee joint and toe joint. So the places you have to study where we can see the hinge joint in our body. The specialty of hinge joint is that it can move only in one direction. And second one is ball and socket joint. The specialty is that it can move in many directions, and where we can see the ball and socket joint in the shoulder and also in the hip. Shoulder and in the hip. That is about the ball and socket joint. Then next is pivot joint. Pivot joint is also a flexible joint, and it is present between skull and the first two vertebrae of our spine. Skull and the first two vertebrae. And it helps our move our head sideways. The sideways movement of our head is due to the which joint? Or pivot joint. Next, gliding joint. So gliding joint, it is also a free moving joint, and it is mainly present in the small bones like wrist, ankle and vertebrae. So it helps the bones to glide one bone over the another. So it enables us to bend, twist, turn sideways, forward and backward. So study that. Each joint is very important. Study all the things, all the important things about the joint. What is a joint? What is a ligament? What is lubricant? And what is the function of lubricant? To reduce the friction. And how many types of joints are there? Two types. Which are they? Movable and immovable. Then which are the movable joints? Four types are there: hinge joint, ball and socket joint, pivot joint and gliding joint. Study a detailed note about each joint. So that first chapter was revision was over, and the next chapter is about muscular system. So in the muscular system we studied about muscles. We need a healthy muscles for our proper functioning of the body, and also muscles helps in the movement of our body parts. So what are muscles? That is an expected question. Muscles are tough fibrous tissues attached to the bones, and bones are covered by muscles. The more than 600 muscles are present in our body. Then next is tendon. That means a muscle is connected to a bone with the help of tendon. It connects muscles to the bones. So you can expect another question, what you mean by tendon. So a tendon is a tough fibrous tissue present in the body that connects a muscle to a bone and also help in the movement. Then movement of bones is mainly due to the contraction and relaxation of muscles. Then we studied the different types of muscles, biceps and triceps. Biceps means the muscles on the front side of our upper arm. Triceps means muscles on the back side of our upper arm. So study that both, what are biceps and what are triceps. Then we studied types of muscles. Muscular system is made up of different types of muscles. Mainly there are three types of muscles: skeletal muscles, smooth muscles and cardiac muscles. The another name of skeletal muscle is voluntary muscles. They are controlling the voluntary actions. Voluntary actions means we are controlling that kind of particular actions. So that is an always asking question, what is the another name of skeletal muscles? Voluntary muscles. Or voluntary muscles, what do you mean by voluntary actions that you can expect? So it is mainly we can see in arms, legs, shoulders, neck, tongue and face. In the external part we can see. And then next is smooth muscles. Smooth muscles mainly we can see in the internal organs of our body like esophagus, stomach and intestine. So you can expect one question from there. The muscles in the digestive system. Write the name of the muscles in the digestive system. Smooth muscles, or write the name of the muscles in the esophagus. Then they are involuntary muscles. So we can expect one more question. Smooth muscles are also known as what? Involuntary muscles. Then finally cardiac muscles, where we can see cardiac muscles in the walls of the heart. So what are the functions of cardiac muscles? It helps in the rhythmic movement of the heart, and also it helps in the continuously pumps blood through the entire body. The cardiac muscle is also an involuntary muscles. So up to that much is the topic for your exam. So read and study the lesson first, then only you go to the notebook section. So complete the notes and read all the textbook and also study the textbook answers. So we will see in the next class.